we're talking about these deep running backs here, these mid-round running backs that you're getting in the 8th or ninth round. And one that I want to talk about here, he's a kind of a guy that when you look at, you're looking at your cheat sheets, right, and you see Ronald Jones, and another one that you see right below him would be Jordan Howard. And that's who I want to talk about here for a minute. Right now, his ADP is the RB36. That's the 8th or ninth round there. And we all know running backs are scarce. That's why we preach starting your draft with 2 running backs. But Howard is kind of the last running back that you'll see on a draft board that will actually be the featured back in their respective offense. I know the first kind of worry or question mark with Howard would be Matt Breida coming in, who was also brought into Miami, but he's going to be more of their receiving back and their change of pace back, and he's had his own issues kind of staying on the field. And Miami's already come out and said, like, he's our speed change of pace guy. We're going to get him out in space. So I think you're going to give Breida, more of the check down volume, the screen volume, some different exotic looks like that. But between the tackles, on the goal line, and any power run situation, first and second down, I think the ball's going to Jordan Howard. Miami knows exactly what they were getting when they signed Jordan Howard. He's been productive his entire career. This is actually a very surprising stat to me, which I feel like it's brought up every time we bring up Jordan Howard. But Howard, since he got drafted in 2016, he is 3rd in the NFL in not only rushing attempts, but also rushing yards, even while missing half a season in 2019. It's absolutely wild. He has a 4.3 career yards per attempt, and he's one of those backs that's kind of like, Carlos Hyde. He's just going to be a shoo-in for, 230-plus carries, 250 carries a season. Howard hasn't finished with less than 6 touchdowns in a season, and here are his finishes in PPR. In 2016, he finished as the RB10 as a rookie. In 2017, he finished as the RB14. In 2018, he was the RB20. And last year, before he went down with a shoulder injury that essentially took him out for the back half of the season, he was the RB15 on the year. And the Dolphins have already come out and said, and so has Howard, that he is 100% ready to go. And it actually blew my mind to see that Howard is still 25 years old. This guy is still very much in his prime window. He's got 2 or 3 years exactly left in his prime. You don't get the massive upside that maybe like a Ronald Jones, or I know a guy you're going to talk about here in a minute, Jonathan Taylor, has. But if you need a running back that's not going to ruin your week and totally just shit the bed, I think Howard is a great RB2 plug-in, especially if you take a risky name like Dalvin Cook, Todd Gurley, Clyde Edwards-Helaire early in your draft. You want to hedge that a little bit. I think Howard fits that profile. Right now, Vegas has Miami at 6.5 wins, which was actually pretty surprising to me. They made a lot of upgrades.
It seems high.
It does. I mean, that's 6th lowest. So, I mean, even the worst teams, Vegas has it like 5 wins.
Still seems high.
It does. It really, really does. I mean, I don't see how this team's going to improve all that much, even with the pieces that they brought in. I mean, they pretty much upgraded every part of their team, from their secondary, the defensive line, offensive line, quarterback. It's like, but what is that going to turn into in their first year together? I don't know. And then you have question marks with Tua on his health. Like, I don't know if he sees the field this year, especially the shortened COVID year. If things go the right way, though, for Howard, you're getting a guy who can play. You can pretty much plug him in the right matchups. If you think he's going to get into the end zone, just like in Philly and Chicago, I'm sure that Howard is going to have these multiple touchdown weeks. And in the 8th or ninth round, I think Jordan Howard should be a name that all fantasy players consider drafting.
I love the pick, Steph. And to be honest with you, the guy I just talked about, Ronald Jones and Jordan Howard, are the 2 guys that in that 8th, ninth round as my RB4 normally, I'm looking at those 2 guys as my pick because they're kind of they're 2 starters. Like, they are starters on their team, and they're going that late in draft. So if my running back 4 is still a starter, I'm super happy with that. I definitely think Jordan Howard will return, barring injury, will return on that ADP this season. So how I think about this is I don't think Jordan Howard, like you mentioned, I don't think he has quite the upside of a Ronald Jones, but I think he is a much safer pick to where Jordan Howard's going to finish the year, if he stays healthy for the whole season, as a top 25 running back. Where with Ronald Jones, I see the upside being there, but I think there's also a situation where Keyshawn Vaughn comes in and is actually the lead back. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible. And with Jordan Howard, he's so safe. I can't imagine him not being at least a high-end RB3. So I love the pick, and he's a very steady and safe pick that will help you win leagues by filling in on bye weeks, giving you consistency when you need it, things like that. And I know the one knock I've seen on Jordan Howard this offseason has been how bad this Miami Dolphins offensive line is. Last season, according to Football Outsiders, they had the dead last 32nd ranked run blocking, offensive
Poor
line.
Kalen
You mentioned
Ballage.
oh my gosh, Kalen Ballage, didn't he have like 2 yards per carry or something like that?
Brutal.
And then, Patrick Laird is running. I don't know.
The
It was
GOAT.
a train wreck for Miami last season. But I look at this offensive line and what they did to address it in the offseason, and they did a ton. In the draft, they drafted Austin Jackson in the first round as an offensive tackle. They drafted Robert Hunt early in the second round as a guard. They took another guard in the fourth round. So right there's 2 probable starters as rookies that have the talent to get there, and then another depth piece in the fourth round. And then you look at free agency. They signed guard Eric Flowers. Say what you want about whether he's good or not, but he got a 3-year, $30 million deal, $10 million a year. So they paid him in free agency. He's going to start on the O-line. They even signed a backup center from the Patriots. So that's just more depth on this offensive line. They really are addressing the position and making sure they throw everything at it so they're not dead last in the NFL and run blocking next season. I think they probably aren't going to be a top half O-line, especially if you are starting a couple rookies and have some new faces in there. They're probably not going to mesh together immediately. But I'd put my money on them not finishing dead last in run blocking. Maybe they're 24th, 25th, still an improvement from the brutal season we saw last year. Enough to get it done.
If we look at the way that the Dolphins were playing last year, Fitzmagic was moving the ball. He's getting them down there in the red zone. I just feel like if they're down there and then it's okay, let's give our power back, the guy that we just signed at a fairly decent deal, Jordan Howard, to come in and just hand him the ball up the middle. And I think you're going to be pleased with a couple weeks when he gets 2 or 3 of those and ends up getting in there for 6.